Hello, I'm Rosie Hardy. This is Rosie Hardy Gardening. Today I'm going to talk about a family of plants which are really useful for edge of woodland, so semi-shady areas. They will go into sun, they will go into slightly deeper shade, but that's somewhere where a lot of people have problems, especially in the mid to late summer period, having some interest in those areas. And this plant family is called Patrinia. Patrinia are an umbelliferæ. They are related to Valeriaceae. They are fabulous. They flower. Once they start flowering, they flower and flower and flower. They also then, once they've finished flowering, produce really beautiful seed heads which stay looking good and architectural for quite a long period. They range from being really tall, like this one, punctiflora, to really low, like gibbosa. Let's start with the really tall one because this is just a beautiful plant. It has very divided leaf. It makes a lovely clump at the base, so it's always going to be a clump former. And then above that comes these towering stems which have a slight red tint to them, and then fully branched with these amazing little yellow flowers right the way up, sprays of beautiful flower. Now, when you look at the flower heads individually, you will have dark yellow little flowers. Those are the new ones just opening up. Then you will have slightly paler ones. That means they've just about been pollinated, and then they start to die off, and then behind them loads and loads of buds to come. So this one is a cloud of pale yellow, so in a dark space this shows up and really lightens up the area. Once the flowers have completely finished, you get a lime green ornamental seed head, which is beautiful. So this is a really tall plant, goes up to somewhere around about 1.20 m, maybe 1.50 m, so that's between 4 and 5 feet in height, but it is coming from a small base, something around about 1 foot to 18 inches, that is 30 to 45 centimeters, and it is a clump former. Now, because it comes from seed, it doesn't tend to self-seed around that much. This particular variety comes from China, so it originates from China. Really good plant. Tolerates most soil types, does not want to be soaking wet, and does not want to be absolutely bony dry. So somewhere in the middle, somewhere where there's a good amount of organic matter, leaf litter, that type of thing, it will be a happy plant in your garden. Then we move on to this one, which has a white flower. So it is again going to show up beautifully in a dark area. So this is one called Patrinia villosa. Now, Patrinia villosa comes up with beautiful strong stems again, beautiful white heads, and it does branch off, not quite as branched as its cousin. And this one comes from Japan. So we're talking a lot of area for Japan. You will notice this has a little baby coming out the side here. Well, when you start off with these plants, they have a beautiful foliage like this, then they put their flower heads on, but then they have runners. And these runners can be on quite long stems like this, which means that they are going to go and put themselves down on a bit of ground like that. And you can see this has already started to root out. So it's going to start another colony over there. So you will have one plant here, jumping over to another plant, jumping to another. So this is going to colonize and go through. So really, this is a plant for a bigger space, or you can container grow, because obviously these runners will drop down the containers and you can just cut them off, and it's an easy way of propagating and getting a new plant. But if you have a small garden, what you need to do is you need to watch out for the runners, because as soon as they root, you can then pull them out. You can cut off the umbilical cord, pot it up and have it somewhere else. But if you aren't wary, it will then take over and move around. I don't mind that. Personally, I'm quite happy with plants which reproduce themselves in a really easy way like that. And, you know, it isn't that difficult to get a fork or something and dig out the pieces that are there. But a very beautiful plant, especially with this white, and again, a strong stem, so it holds itself up really well. And again, this has exactly the same as the yellow. You have the white flowers coming out, and then behind you've got these lovely seeds that are going to create another seed head. This will be much paler. It'll be almost white with its seed heads, which again are beautifully architectural. Then we go on to the last one that I've got. There are other forms within this plant family. It's not a large family. There are some other forms, but these are the three that I brought to talk about. This one is gibbosa, much shorter. Again, it comes from Japan. It has a slightly different leaf shape to the others. So we have very much a divided cut leaf on the punctiflora. We have a starting leaf that is solid on the villosa, and then as it goes to flowering, it becomes a divided leaf. But with the gibbosa, it is always this shaped leaf going up the flowers like this, quite toothed and going up through. It will make a lovely clump, and it doesn't get much taller than 50 centimeters, somewhere just under 2 feet in height, and then it actually will create a lovely clump, bulking up, and it doesn't run around all over the place. Good for edge of woodland, really great. This one, the flowers are slightly bigger, so when you look at the individual buds, they are 2 to 3 times the size of the buds on the other forms, and the flowers themselves have a little tube and then open up. But again, they still have this wonderful loads and loads of flower, loads of bud to come, so each inflorescence lasts a long time. This one you can divide. It is not so free at setting seed. In fact, I can't see any on these heads at the moment. So the punctiflora and the villosa set more seed. This one doesn't, so you don't get such an architectural head on them, but it flowers for a great time, and being this colour shows up well in a shady spot. So you can divide this plant once it is a little bit better. All of them will tolerate most soil types, and it needs to be somewhere where there's a little bit of moisture, so that just means you've got to have a good amount of organic matter when you put the plants in. So something different for shady spots. The Perennials are really great plants. Thank you very much for watching, and please do subscribe to the channel.